Welcome to the Power of Purity podcast, the show that empowers men to experience their sexual gift in a healthier way. Now here's your host, Tony Ingracia.
Hey guys, welcome back to this episode of the Power of Purity podcast. God bless you, and thank you for being here with me today. And as always, I do pray that today's episode will be a blessing and an encouragement to you. Although, to be honest with you, today's episode is one that I wish that I did not have to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. And more about that in just a moment. But before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment just to remind you guys that we do have an upcoming Pathway to Purity intensive workshop scheduled for March 19, 20, and 21. And you are invited. It's going to be an awesome, life-changing weekend. And I'm very, very excited about it. I've been working incredibly hard on it. You are welcome to attend this intensive live in the St. Charles, Missouri area, which is a suburb of St. Louis, or you can attend on Zoom virtually if you would prefer. And if you'd like to get more information, go to the Power of Purity website, powerofpurity.org, and at the top there's a link there, intensive workshop. Click on that link and it'll give you all the information you need to know. But as of this time, there are a total of 14 sessions that we're going to have at this workshop, and a man will receive the basic information and tools and resources and strategies he needs that will catapult him forward in his journey of purity. So guys, if you're ready to take it to the next level and invest in yourself, invest in your marriage, invest in your future, invest in your purity, invest in your success as a son of God in the kingdom of God, then please consider attending this workshop. I think it's going to be an awesome time. I'd love to meet you personally. I'd love to share more of my story with you. I'd love to hear more of your story and do some work together in the kingdom of God as we move forward on our journey of purity together. So please consider that. And with that being said, I'm going to jump into today's episode. And you may or may not be aware of the fact, probably most of you are aware of the fact, that there has been a recent scandal within the Christian community around a man named Ravi Zacharias. And you may or may not be aware of this, but unfortunately there's been a long parade of sex scandals where famous preachers and Christian celebrities and TV pastors have fallen into sexual sin and various issues. And it seems like this happens one after the other after the other. And unfortunately, Ravi Zacharias is the most recent Christian celebrity that this has happened to. And Ravi Zacharias was born on March 26, 1946. He died just recently, May 19th of 2020. He was an Indian-born Canadian-American Christian apologist who founded RZIM, the Ravi Zacharias International Ministry, and he was involved in Christian apologetics for a period of more than 40 years. And Ravi Zacharias was the author of more than 30 books on Christianity, including the Evangelical Christian Publishers Association's Gold Medallion Book Award winner, Can Man Live Without God? He founded the RZIM ministry and was the host of the radio program Let My People Think. And most of you are probably familiar with this man, Ravi Zacharias. He was absolutely, hands down, brilliant, a brilliant apologist and defender of Christianity and defender of the Bible. And if you Google his name or go on YouTube and just put in Ravi Zacharias, there are hundreds and hundreds of various videos of him speaking and giving lectures. He would speak at college campuses, literally all around the world, at conferences, college campuses, and different events. He was a person of notoriety. He was well known and well respected literally all around the world. In fact, when he died in 2020, there was quite a bit of fanfare and notoriety around his funeral, where very high-ranking, well-known people of notoriety spoke very highly of him, spoke of him at his memorial service. Even the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, spoke of his relationship and respect and admiration of Ravi Zacharias. So he was very, very well known. Well, as the story unfolds, unfortunately, in a past number of years, there had been several different allegations leveled against Ravi Zacharias concerning sexual misconduct, and he always quite vehemently denied any such accusations and insisted that it was just his enemies trying to perpetrate harm and destruction upon his reputation and upon the ministry. So he always denied these things, categorically denied them. And there were numerous allegations forthcoming, and people in his ministry would try to talk to him about this. As I've done my research, I've learned he was always quite defensive about it and insisted that none of these things were true. Well, unfortunately, these rumors continued to escalate even after his death, and so what the board of directors of the RZIM ministry decided to do was to hire an outside legal firm, a group of attorneys by the name of Miller and Martin, and they hired this legal firm to do an independent investigation of these allegations. And so they did this research and they interviewed all these different witnesses and people that had accusations and all this evidence and his cell phone records and his laptop computers and just whatever all was involved. And they did an extensive investigation for months and months and months. And by the way, let me just say that I think that it was very honorable that the ministry did this, and they made a pledge from the very beginning that whatever the report was and whatever the evidence was, that they would disclose 100% with absolute transparency everything that was discovered. And they did, in fact, do that. And unfortunately, when this report came out concerning the sexual misconduct of Ravi Zacharias, the report was not at all flattering and verified, in fact, that many of these allegations were very truthful, and that, in fact, Ravi Zacharias had acted out in many different ways, sexually in inappropriate ways that were very inconsistent with his profession of faith and his ministry, and it's really, really very sad. And so, in view of this, since the name of this podcast is the Power of Purity Podcast, and since the theme of our podcast is sexual purity and honoring God within the kingdom of God with our sexual gift, and this story has been one of notoriety and it's been in the news and there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about it, I thought that it would only be appropriate if I at least spoke to it a little bit, you guys. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about Ravi Zacharias, about this independent investigation, and then I have 6 rather simple observations that I want to share with you that I think that we can learn from this situation. And I just want to encourage you guys that, we're in the fight of our life here. It's very common that men struggle with these issues. And even when a well-respected, a person of notoriety falls and stumbles and we discover has had these sexual secrets and there's been misconduct and inappropriate choices and actions and behavior, it's very hurtful to the body of Christ. It's hurtful to the name of Christ. It's tragic. It's a shame. And it reinforces to us that no person is beyond failure in this area. And I pray that it will encourage us to be radically committed to our walk of purity and to take this thing very seriously. So, with that being said, kind of in the way of introduction, what I want to do is I'm going to share with you a little bit of this report that these attorneys did on the independent investigation into the sexual misconduct of Ravi Zacharias. And let me just mention that the report, I think, is like 12 or 13 pages long. So I'm not going to take the time to read the entire report. I'm very confident that you can find the report if you just were to Google independent investigation into the sexual misconduct of Ravi Zacharias or something like that. The report is out there. It's public information. It's easy to find. So if you're interested, I'm confident that you could find the report pretty easily and you could read the entire report if you wanted to. It was actually published on February 9th, 2021, which is just 3 weeks ago as of the time of this recording. So what I'm going to do is read to you a little bit of the report. I'm not going to read all 13 pages. And then I'm going to share with you 6 brief observations that I'd like to share. And so I'm going to read to you now from this report concerning Ravi Zacharias. And this section of the report is entitled Interaction with Massage Therapist. Although we were able to interview only one of the massage therapists anonymously referenced in the Christianity Today article, our investigation revealed other massage therapists who corroborate her account. Several massage therapists confirmed Mr. Zacharias' frequent efforts to try for more than just a massage, as one therapist put it. 8 therapists reported that Mr. Zacharias would start the massage either completely nude or would remove the sheets around the massage. 6 therapists reported that he always or almost always had an erection during the massage. 4 therapists reported that he would either touch his genitals or ask them to touch his genitals. And 5 therapists reported that he touched or rubbed them inappropriately. Some therapists pushed back on this behavior with some success. One reported that she would redrape him if he removed the sheets. She told him when she was uncomfortable and told him he would have to leave if he did not stop. One therapist responded to his attempts to rub her legs by moving his arms back onto the table and at times even binding his arms with sheets into a sling to keep them from wandering. She refused his frequent requests to touch his genitals. Another therapist told him she did not feel comfortable and would stop him when he would rub her leg up to mid-thigh and grab her waist, which was an obvious cue that he wanted more. Another therapist also refused when he asked her to go lower and massage closer to his genitals, and she admonished him on several occasions when he would start touching himself. He asked the same person to travel overseas to massage him on trips, but she was not comfortable with him and was afraid she would not be able to afford a plane ticket home if she felt the need to return early. She reported that she could see how more than a massage would have happened if a therapist did not feel comfortable speaking up and pushing back. Some therapists reported even more serious and sustained sexual assaults that evolved over time. 2 therapists obliged his request to masturbate him, telling one of them it was necessary because his pain was ligamental. While 5 women reported that he touched and grabbed their legs, 2 said he eventually went beyond that with them, rubbing their breasts and genitals. One therapist further reported that she was struggling financially, and Mr. Zacharias offered to help pay for her schooling and monthly living expenses in addition to compensating her for the massages. She told us that the more we saw each other, the more he became comfortable and wanted to go further. She told us she felt obligated to do what he asked because of the financial support he provided. In addition to these direct accounts, these and other witnesses claimed to know or to have heard Mr. Zacharias' abuse or attempted abuse of other massage therapists, but we did not credit such hearsay. Only one of the witnesses we interviewed said that Mr. Zacharias engaged in sexual intercourse. This witness reported details of many encounters over a period of years that she described as rape. To respect her identity, this report does not disclose many of the details she shared with us. Some information is related below because aspects of Mr. Zacharias' behavior towards this witness were similar to his conduct with other therapists, specifically the use of ministry funds to provide financial support, the effort to elicit personal information about a difficult past, and Mr. Zacharias' use of religious language during their encounters. This witness told us that their relationship began as a normal massage therapist-client relationship, and she came to think of him as a father figure. He elicited information about her faith and her financial situation. She reported that after he arranged for the ministry to provide her with financial support, he required sex from her. According to this witness, Mr. Zacharias used religious expressions to gain compliance, as she was raised to be a person of faith. She reported that he made her pray with him to thank God for the opportunity they had both received. She said he called her his reward for living a life of service to God, and he referenced the godly men in the Bible with more than one wife. She said he warned her not to ever speak out against him, or she would be responsible for the millions of souls whose salvation would be lost if his reputation was damaged. A number of aspects of this account involve similar behavior and escalation as the accounts of other therapists who would not have known each other and who treated Mr. Zacharias in different contexts over time. The therapist he reportedly targeted for more than a massage discussed a similar modus operandi of building their trust and making them feel at ease. As one put it, he wasn't frisky initially. Some therapists described a process that began with probing conversation and him asking about their families and backgrounds, often delving into deeply personal issues such as financial struggles or emotionally broken backgrounds. For example, one therapist reported that Mr. Zacharias spent the first half of their first massage session asking about her spiritual journey and prior abuse. This set her at ease and made her feel that he cared for her as a person before he later asked to massage his genitals. Another woman reported that he would talk about her career plans and efforts to improve her financial situation while he was massaging her breasts. She never came forward because she thought, "Who would believe me?" against a famous Christian leader. Some therapists also reported that Mr. Zacharias paid very well or would leave large tips and gave gifts that were at times lavish, such as a Persian rug or a Louis Vuitton wallet with $500 inside. And I'm skipping ahead now to a section of the report entitled Lori Ann Thompson, which I understand who is the first and primary person who came forward with her allegations against him. And the first paragraph says this: as mentioned above, the scope of our investigation included allegations involving Mr. Zacharias and a Canadian woman named Lori Ann Thompson. Ms. Thompson accused him of engaging in sexually explicit online conversations with her and also soliciting and ultimately receiving many indecent photos of her. She claimed that he groomed her as he gained her trust as a spiritual guide, confident, and notable Christian statesman, after which she opened up her life to him to the point where he exercised a controlling influence over her as one with spiritual authority. He used this influence, she claimed, to exploit her vulnerability to satisfy his own sexual desires. While they were never physically intimate, Ms. Thompson alleged that they engaged in an emotional relationship through electronic communication that culminated in him asking for photographs of her, including nudes, which she sent. In order to avoid protracted and public litigation, on April 27, 2017, the Thompsons sent Mr. Zacharias a letter demanding $5 million in exchange for a release of claims against him and the ministry. And then skipping ahead in the investigative report to a section entitled Photographs, in the first paragraph they verify that Mr. Zacharias's phones contained over 200 photographs of women much younger than him. And now I'm reading from the second paragraph, which says this: in the majority of these photographs, the women were fully clothed and posing as anyone would for a selfie. We found 6 photographs of a clothed Miss Thompson taken between February 14, 2016 and February 26, 2016 on a BlackBerry device Mr. Zacharias used between July 2017 and January 2018. In some, though, different women are kissing for the camera or otherwise suggestively posed, and one set contained nude images of a young Malaysian salon employee. The earliest picture of her is dated August 20th, 2017, and shows her standing in the lobby of a salon with Mr. Zacharias and another man. Travel records confirm that Mr. Zacharias was in Malaysia at that time. Over time, more pictures of this woman appeared in Mr. Zacharias' phone, most of which were relatively innocuous and show her fully clothed. However, the photographs grew increasingly more suggestive, culminating in 2 photographs showing her bare breasts dated October 27, 2018, and a video of her fully naked and touching herself dated January 8, 2019. 2 other women told us that Mr. Zacharias asked for nude photographs, which they refused to provide. And then skipping forward to the very conclusion on the last page of the report, it's rather short. I'm just going to read this concluding statement from the report, which says, our investigation was limited to Mr. Zacharias' sexual misconduct, and even as to that issue, it was not exhaustive. We acknowledge that we have not spoken to all individuals who may have relevant information to provide. We strive to balance the need for completeness with the need for expediency, and we are confident that we uncovered sufficient evidence to conclude that Mr. Zacharias engaged in sexual misconduct. So it's interesting to note, guys, that at the conclusion of this report, the conclusion of this investigation by these qualified attorneys, that they were confident that they had uncovered sufficient evidence to conclude that Mr. Zacharias engaged in sexual misconduct. So you know the old adage, you guys, that says, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And it appears from reading this report that there's a heck of a lot of smoke. There's a lot of evidence that was forthcoming, and the preponderance of the evidence seems rather overwhelming to indicate that there is much credibility and truth to these accusations that have come forward against Ravi Zacharias, and thus the conclusion of the report that there is ample evidence to verify the reality that Mr. Ravi Zacharias has been found guilty of sexual misconduct in his life and in his ministry. And by the way, guys, maybe I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but going back to the very beginning of the report, it talks about how Mr. Zacharias invested in and was part owner of at least 2 different health spas and massage therapy spas. So he was invested in these businesses, he was somehow involved, and it was also a pretty well documented fact that he did have well documented and established issues with his health, with his back, with chiropractic issues. And so he was in the very regular habit of using massage, therapeutic massage, and he ended up owning 2 different massage companies, or at least in part, and so he was in the practice of using massage on a regular basis. And the fact is, the report goes into a whole section how he would even hire a female massage therapist to travel with him when he would go around the world on various ministry trips to speak at conferences and such. He would carry with him his personal massage therapist. And as they investigated this further, there were things that happened on these trips with his massage therapist and other massage therapists that he would use in other countries. So the extent of this behavior is significant. And it's pretty well documented and verified. And I guess where there's smoke, there is fire. And of course, what's shocking about this, you guys, and very disappointing, is the stature of Ravi Zacharias. He was a person of notoriety. He was well known. He was very respected. And he literally traveled around the world and had a noteworthy, very high profile reputation. And therefore, as the old adage says, the higher they are, the harder they fall. And this is a gentleman that was very well known, very respected, a person of notoriety. And therefore, when these accusations emerged and then this investigative report came out verifying the truth of this sexual misconduct, that the consequences, the collateral damage of this situation are far and wide. And of course, it besmirches not only his personal reputation and character, but it also besmirches and is quite derogatory against Christianity and the name of Christ himself. Because here we go again, another well-known, well-respected person of notoriety, a Christian leader, a Christian pastor, a worldwide known Christian apologist, is living a secret life and has this sexual immorality in his life. And in reality, the way he's living is completely inconsistent with the message that he's preaching. And so this gives many people reason to mock Christ, to mock Christians, to mock Christianity, and verifies to many people the hypocrisy of Christians and of Christianity. So it's just very sad, and the implications of this are far-reaching. And by the way, guys, one other thing that I should mention again is that this report is 12 or 13 pages long, and I basically read like 2 of the pages to you. So I didn't even read anywhere near half of the report to you. So if you'd like to get a fuller sense of this, you can find the report online, and the title of the report is Report of Independent Investigation into Sexual Misconduct of Ravi Zacharias, dated February 9, 2021. And with that being said, you guys, I see from the clock that I'm actually out of time for today's episode. So that's kind of the bad news. I'm sorry to have to report on this, but I feel like I need to speak to it. So I'm not going to candy coat it. I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen. I'm not going to try to make it look better than it is. It's pretty ugly. So I thought I would just read some of the report and put it out there and be as honest and transparent as I possibly can. And I'd like to invite you to come back next week. And what I intend to do is share with you guys 6 basic observations from this situation concerning the moral failure, the sexual misconduct of Ravi Zacharias. So please come back next week, you guys. I'll look forward to seeing you right back here at the Power of Purity podcast. In the meantime, be blessed. Have an awesome week. And may I encourage you, gentlemen, to let this situation be sobering to us. Let it be a wake-up call. Let it be a warning to us that if somebody of this significant stature in the Christian community can fall and can have sexual failure, sexual immorality, that he can misuse his sexual gift in ways that are completely inconsistent with his profession of faith and his conscience. If this can happen to Ravi Zacharias, dude, I guess it can happen to any one of us. God forbid. So I pray that we can learn from this, that we can be strengthened by it and encouraged by it, even though it's a terribly difficult situation. Come back next week and I'll share my 6 observations. God bless you, and I'll see you right back here next week. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for listening. Visit powerofpurity.org for more resources and information. And if this podcast has been helpful or encouraging, please invite a friend to listen. Until next time, remember, there's power in purity.